What is up, guys? Hey, it is Brent Abel here, webtennis.com. Another episode of 7 Around 7, as in 7 a.m. Pacific. I am back here in the Rocky Mountains and Mountain Time Zone, 8 a.m. here, and traveled yesterday from Charlotte. Spent the night, what's today? Today's Monday. Spent the night Saturday night in Charlotte for a 6:40 a.m. flight yesterday morning, Charlotte to Chicago Midway. Oh boy, isn't that a fun little airport to land in and take off from? A postage stamp Midway Airport in Chicago. You better, man, that pilot better I've heard stories, within 500 feet, if you don't miss that first, if you overshoot the first 500 feet Midway, better be a touch and go. Anyway, survive that. And then my flight from Chicago to Denver yesterday. God dang it. Loved it. Actually, it was fine. I had a seat by the window, actually in the very front row, seat by the window. I was looking forward to, kind of watching the Rockies come up and, eventually. And then this very nice couple and a 13-month-old baby boy sit down right next to me. And this little guy, I mean, cute as can be, but man, fired up, energized, wants to be everywhere. And if he can't get everywhere, he starts whining and, crying. And luckily I had the big, heavy, thick silicone earplugs in there, so I didn't hear too much of it. But eventually I suggested to Mom, hey, why don't I move to the aisle so you guys have more room and he can look outside and all that. I know, my good deed for the day, right? So anyway, back here in the Rockies and got back yesterday afternoon. Mai was playing a pickleball, was playing a pickleball tournament here at the Steamboat Tennis Center. Women's doubles yesterday. They won. They had to, they got all the way through to the finals, and it's a double elimination type deal. And so they play this other team that beat them, right? And so since that was their first loss, they get one more shot. And by now it's getting dark and there's no lights out there. And so they play one game to 15, and they get up like 13-6 or 13-7. And the tournament director comes out and says, that's it. Whoever's ahead, it's too dark. I'm calling it. So Mai and her partner, Lori, ended up winning. They got the gold thing, the gold medal. Anyway, good for them. So look, guys, really had a great experience. I was gone for 17 days, started off with 5 days in Northern California. My oldest daughter, Georgie, who got married, and we just had a great time. And that was just special. And then literally a couple of weeks in Nashville, North Carolina, playing a National Senior Men's Tennis Association team event. That was 6 doubles matches, and that was and that kind of led up to the Asheville City Open tournament where I played singles and doubles. So here's what I want to do today. I want to go through some numbers for you to help you think about the reality of becoming a better player. And it's all fine and great if you want to buy courses and you want to watch videos and do all that kind of stuff. If you want to go out in the ball machine, if you want to go out in the backboard, if you want to get a drilling partner, all that's important. Get some time on the teaching court with your favorite pro. But the real learning happens. And here we go with the numbers. You can see them on the screen. It's 13, 1, 10, 3, and 3. 13, right, are the number of matches I played against different opponents in singles and doubles. The number 1 was in between that, was 1 day of a solid workout and, some practice games. So I really kind of look at that as, because we did play some doubles. I mean, Tony and I and Phil and Dave, kind of sounds like a band. Anyway, but we, on that one day, we worked out. And for me, working out with those guys is like, I can't get any better than that. I mean, I can't get any better practice partners than that, with all due respect to the Big O. But so we hit for maybe 45 minutes doing some cross courts and up the lines and overheads and all that kind of stuff. And then we played, I would say we probably played 10 games, doubles. So for me, that was darn close to, a competitive situation. So 13-1, 10, actually, when I went back and thought about it, the number 10 is the number of days in a row with that 13-1 in terms of 13 tournament matches and then one practice deal. Actually should have been 9. I miscalculated. So really it was 14 matches in 9 days. The 3 is kind of tongue in cheek in terms of Tony and I won the doubles. We had a big win. That was a big win for us. We beat Phil and Dave, who I consider, both of those guys as individual doubles players, great players, but as a team, rock solid. And Tony and I just, are we going to beat them 10 out of 10 times? Of course not. I don't even know if we'll beat them half the time. We might. But on that day, it was our day. And that's just the way it goes sometimes, right? I mean, they missed a couple of shots. I know they never miss. We probably reflexed a couple of balls that we got lucky on. But I think all in all, that was just our day. And we won the finals 3-3 over those guys. And, for me, a big time win. And then the second, number 3, the last 3 are the things I want to talk about today, kind of the 3 takeaways that I came away with yesterday, just kind of sitting on the airplane, and, kind of coming back. And after that, and I've always got in my mind, there's something, 1 or 2 or more. And in this case, there were kind of 3 main takeaways. You're absolutely right. Owen says to be mentioned in the same breath with those guys, all the respect I could hope for. Well, look, I gotta give it up to the Big O. I mean, he's the ideal practice partner. Ideal. I mean, ideal meaning that he's open to, number one, working out a lot, right? And if we go for a couple, 2 or 3 days in a row, he's got no problem with that. If I suggest something, and I'm always suggesting something, knowing that I'm also offering at the end, and then whatever you want to do. So there's always a reciprocity thing in there. I might say, hey, for the first 20 minutes, could we do this today? He always says yes. And then I'm always like, hey, and then if you want to do something else, we'll do that. So the ideal practice partner right there. Where was I? And then the 3 takeaways. Yeah. So look, I've written them down here. Takeaway number 1, and this is probably the most important thing, is that becoming a better player, meaning that whatever, and for me, it really gets back to the skill level range, right? We all play within this range, right? We've got the very top of our skill level range. And if you're a 4.0, a solid benchmark NTRP rated, now let's not get started on the NTRP rating system, but if you're a solid benchmark NTRP 4.0, we know that you can play up very close to the 4.5, if not at that 4.5 level on some points in a match, maybe even a game or 2. But we also know that if you're a benchmark 4.0, that you can play down maybe close to that 3.7, that 3.6 level. So there's a range that we all play with it. And what I've always promoted, and when Jeff Jackledge and I did gold ball hunting for 365 days of the year, we talked a lot about your skill level range, not in terms of trying to move the whole thing up higher, but taking the bottom of it and moving it up closer to where your top skill level is right now, so that you build confidence. Every time you go out in the court, you've got a pretty good idea, no matter who the opponent is over there, as to what skill level you're going to play at. Doesn't mean that you're going to win every match, because we've always talked about there's so many uncontrollables in a match. But that's really where we become better players, is where we reduce our skill level range, meaning we take the bottom and we bring it up to the top. And from here, we can now start to explore, well, if you're a 4.0 solid benchmark and now you're always playing at like, a 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, you can now start to explore what's that everyday 4.5 thing like. And it works at every skill level range, or I should say every skill level rating label. And so for me, here's the thing, is number 1, becoming a better player is much more about discovering who you are in multiple competitive match situations. So if we go back at the numbers, right? 13 matches against different opponents, singles and doubles. The results were made public. And doing that within the number 10 is wrong. It's, within 9 days, rather than the league thing, right? The league thing, at the most you play, once a week. Maybe there's a couple of times when there's 2 matches a week, but typically you're playing, half the matches you're playing at your home venue, right? So you're kind of in your comfy confines. And many times in the league matches, you may have played against that same opponent before. So it's a known opponent, right? I don't think there's a lot of learning going on about discovering who you are. And what I mean by discovering who you are is what starts to break down in your matches, in singles and doubles. It starts mentally. It really starts mentally in terms of confidence, in terms of what starts to break down and how that affects stroke production, how that affects movement, how that affects shot choice, how that affects court positioning, right? So I believe that if you can find a way, as I just did, and I think I can, and I'm going to, come up with a couple other things for you too here, that actually I kind of came with for my game. But if you really want to become a better player, and I know I'm talking to a minority here, I know I'm talking to those guys and gals, maybe 10% of you who are willing to do what I'm going to suggest, which is to discover more about your game, which again, not the ball machine, not the backboard, not the drilling partner, not the practice points that you do on the same court, a few times a week, but actually going out and scheduling for the next 10 days. Come on, stay with me on this. For the next 10 days, 10 different opponents, and don't play at your club. Just say, look, for the net, here's what I'm working on. Is it okay? I'm happy to pay the guest fee. Can I come over to your place? Let's play 3 sets. Even if one of us wins the first 2 sets, let's play 3 sets. Could be singles, or maybe, doubles is a little trickier to be able to arrange, but it's doable, right? Just got to get creative, got to get resourceful. But if you really want to learn more about how you respond in competitive situations, then just get a really big time dose in a short amount of time, 7 days, 10 days, whatever, and try to see if you can get different opponents at different venues. And I guarantee you, forget the winning results. You're going to win some. I'm assuming you're going to lose some, unless you're, inviting guys who are way below you, which I would say don't do that. But see if you can't find opponents that are similar skill level to you. And again, I know very few people will take me up on this, but if you want to explore what your top level is and how you can get there, then go do that. Just go ahead and carve out some time. And I think that what you'll find is, like I said, mentally, thanks, babe. Oh yeah, the protein shake. Yes. I think what you're going to find is kind of what are your instincts in specific match play situations, right? How good are you between points? Are you really disciplined? Do you have the guts when things aren't going well to not just mentally drift away and start building an excuse story? Do you have the guts to kind of stick with it and maybe kind of go after the match? You know what? I can get a little bit better at my between points routine. Your forehand. I get lots of players who, it's been a while since I've taught on a court, but when I would get players saying, hey, Brent, I really need to work on my forehand. All right. So what I would do is I would make sure that the first thing we did for the first 30 or 45 minutes is I watched them play against a same skill level opponent. And either they would bring someone, or at best it would be I would arrange an opponent who this player or who the student did not know. And I knew they were at the same skill level, and I would watch their forehand, and I would go, man, technique-wise, your forehand's fine. You're just in this one specific situation, you're going up the line too early in the point. It's the opening's just not there yet. You haven't worked the point to where it's really a fat, chubby opening. And a lot of that's because you don't trust other parts of your game. So what you're hoping for is a bigger forehand that you can hit earlier in the point. It just doesn't work that way. So I'm just giving you that as an example. It may be against certain opponents, you're missing way too many first serves, right? Because you've got this perception that you need to do more with your first serve. And so you're missing it. And now you're throwing in a steady diet of second serves, and it's just sitting up. And two things are happening. Number one, your perception's wrong about what you need to do with this opponent with your first serve. You need to just get a higher percentage of first serves in to the body. You don't need to go out wide. Don't need to go tee. Go to the body. Force that player to get out of the way of your serve so they have good stroke mechanics. But number two, spend more time on your second serve, right? How easy is it to practice a second serve? You don't need a practice partner to do that, right? It's the easiest thing in the world. I'm just throwing out a couple examples here for you. But when you'll do that, when you'll get off of all the practice arenas, out of all the practice arenas, and schedule some matches, and even though they're practice matches, go in there with the mindset that, you know what, this is a tournament match. This is whatever. The results are going to count. Maybe you've committed to post the results somewhere. Make them public, assuming that your opponent's okay with that. So I hope that makes sense. So that's thing one. Thing two is the best doubles teams. The best doubles teams win the eventual net court positioning, right? Whether it's serve and volley, whether it's serve, take a few steps in, let the return bounce up and play an approach shot. The return of serve, thinking about your return of serve as an approach shot. I had a long chat yesterday when I was driving back from the Denver airport here to Steamboat. I was talking to my good friend and 7-0 all-world tennis writer, Joel Drucker. And he was lamenting about some doubles thing he'd seen on YouTube. And first of all, I said, stop looking at that stuff. You already know everything about it. And his thing was more, why are these people out there teaching this? Anyway, that's another 7 topic. But the thing that I just eventually told him is that, look, old school stuff, I don't care how great the groundies are, you need to win the battle or you need to win the net court positioning. And if your volleys are not up to snuff, then work on them. Because if you're deciding that the net is not where you want to be, you know what? Eventually you can win matches at certain skill levels with that. And I know I'm going to get a lot of stuff. People are going to go, well, what about the women? We see the women on TV, the pros, it's usually one up, one back. Okay. A lot of the guys, one up, one back. Don't use them as your models, right? They're hitting groundies that you and I will never, ever hit. So don't use that as your model. Use the reality of, and I was telling Joel yesterday about, I think of the return to serve as a simple approach shot. He said, even on the first serve? I said, JD, I'm in the 70s, man. How many of the 70s guys really have got a first serve consistently that I can't at least bump and come in? Play a little bump and run and move in. Or if it's right at me, play a little bump, lob, and just get in. Because the whole thing is, it's not a guarantee. If both you and your partner are the first team up to net, that you're going to win each and every point, not a guarantee. But if you look at the big picture, maybe that's not going to guarantee a match. But in the big picture, overall, those teams tend to win the matches, and those teams tend to win the big matches. And that was, I think, the key to what Tony and I did in Nashville. I mean, and he just kept encouraging me. He said, come on, mate, let's get in. After that first volley, come on in. Right. And I was okay with the first volley, but kind of kind of just loitering a little bit too much behind that service line for that second shot. And he just said, come on in. So that was good to get that message from him. And look, Tony Dawson, one of the great senior doubles players. I mean, obviously a great singles player as well, but clearly one of the. So anyway, for me, that was a great message. And being able to play next to side by side with a guy like that, I just pick up little tiny things that maybe I just don't think about. So look, I encourage you to keep working on serve and volley, even on your second serve. And if they're pounding your second serve, if they're pounding the return your second serve, maybe you try I formation, right? Maybe you try something different. Maybe you stop a little bit early on coming in and you play your transitional shot. Could be a volley, could be half volley, could be an approach, but maybe you play that as a simple approach shot. You end up at the same place anyway, right? And then number 3 here is, more of the mental thing that we get into really competitive situations where it counts. It's a tournament, could be a league match. Maybe you guys are, playing for, getting into the nationals, or you're in the nationals or something like that in terms of a league situation. And, whatever it is, it's so easy between points to get ahead of ourselves, meaning that we start thinking about, even if it's really like halfway through the first set, we start thinking about the finish line of the first set. Because if we got the first set, then you know what? Well, yeah, right. But we just start getting ahead of ourselves. And that's why, and I know for me, like Saturday when I was playing the semis of the singles, it was my 13th match in 9 days. And I was a beat up little man out there. My left glute is right now getting up and down the stairs here at Steamboat is rough. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying that I started thinking about, I've got to do something here to shorten the points. And rather than thinking, well, what's the best play against this opponent? And if that means I'm a little bit slower because of the glute, so be it. But it was just kind of getting ahead of myself. And look, I played Gary Jenkins, who ended up winning the tournament. He beat me 4-4 in the semis, and I had a few chances, but I got to, my hat's off to him. He's having a great year. He's won several tournaments this year, and he was supposed to play Dave Sievertson in the finals, and Dave just decided he'd had too much. I think he was getting a little heat stroke-ish something. And so Dave just said, hey man, I'm done after he won the semis. So, but for me, it was just a little bit too much thinking ahead rather than point to point. What can I do here? And so I highly encourage you, between points routine. If you don't have one, get one. If you want one, you're not sure what it is, hit me up, shoot me an email, brent@webtennis.com, and I'll be happy to help you. All righty, that's it for me today, guys. Curious what's on your mind with the several things that we've talked about today. Down below in the comments area, you can do that. Let me know, or you can shoot me an email, brent@webtennis.com. If you want to keep it private. Of course, I promise anything email-wise not to make that public. If you love 7 around 7, you love web tennis, there's a great way to show your love and support. That is also down below in the description area. There's a link that will take you over to webtennisgear.com. And I think I forgot one of the 3s in there. Did I mention? I think I forgot one of the first 3. Did I mention that the prize for winning the doubles was 3 beers? They gave us this little medal, right? But then Tony and I both got this little kind of bag, cellophane bag of 3 beers from the Wicked Weed Brewery there in Nashville. Very nice. Not the kind of beers I like, so I kind of left them there for the housekeeping people at the Hyatt. Anyway, I think I forgot about that. So, where was I? Yes, great way to support. 7 around 7. Down below, webtennisgear.com. Pick up a t-shirt or two or more or a water bottle. And I'm more than happy, as a way of saying thanks, give you one of my $97 stroke technique courses as a free gift. My way of saying thanks for your love and support. Guys, that's it for me today. It's time for all of us to get out there, wherever there is, and let's help another human being have a spectacular day. Guys, I'll see you again next time.